Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and today I'm hopefully going to be answering the question, is Super Mario Odyssey the best Mario game ever? Few things before we get started though. I am not going to be mentioning any of the 2D Mario games. I know it sounds ridiculous, and yes, obviously Super Mario Odyssey wouldn't even exist if it weren't for the 2D games, but they're so vastly different, it just seems pointless to even make the comparison. Maybe in future we'll look at the 2D games as well, but right here and right now, we're talking about 3D games because they're so different to the 2D games. Also, I'm only going to be making comparisons to the big cheeses, the other contenders that, could actually be classified as maybe the best Mario game ever. I'm not going to be focusing on the little games or every single Mario game that maybe had a 3D element. I'm only going to be looking at the other games that could be said to be the best Mario game ever. And Super Mario Sunshine. Right then, let's kick things off with the one that started it all, because it's easier going chronologically, Super Mario 64. Super Mario 64, when it came out, was an absolute revolution. There was nothing like it out there. I mean, I think there was, a couple of other 3D platformers that maybe came out beforehand, but as far as I understand, it was basically just Bubsy 3D. Even though I was alive at the time that it came out, I don't think I was really sort of old enough to properly process how amazing it was to be able to just push a direction on a control stick and have your character go in that direction in a 3D space. That was whoa. And it still stands up today. It's still a great game. It's still phenomenal. Really good fun. You can pick it up now, have a go with it, and you will have an incredible amount of fun. But it is not better than Super Mario Odyssey. It was the one that started it all, but it was still an early 3D platformer. I think everyone looks back at Super Mario 64 and remembers it being this phenomenal, revolutionary thing, and it was. But nowadays, it is not. If you were to release Super Mario 64 now, for example, after we've had all the other years of development and stuff like that, it would just be sort of, well, it's good fun, but it's nothing revolutionary. We have to look at this objectively and say that no, it wasn't as good as everyone remembers. Yes, for the time it was, but we're looking at things from 2018. It's not the same. One of the really big arguments that I hear against Super Mario Odyssey is that the moons all feel very weak and you don't feel a great sense of completion every time you pick one up, which, is a fair argument, don't get me wrong. I will admit that, it doesn't carry the same weight that we remember Super Mario 64's stars carrying. I think on average then, yes, overall, Super Mario 64's stars were worth more in terms of actual gameplay than the moons in Super Mario Odyssey on the whole. But, it still had some absolute stinkers. I mean, there was, Shoot to the Island in the Sky, or it was called something like that. Basically, you just had to hop in a cannon and shoot onto an island, and there was a star in a box. It's not a challenge. And there was another one where you basically had to do exactly the same thing in Jolly Roger Bay, only you had to grab onto a pillar before you could get it. Every time I've gone back to play Super Mario 64, I have really enjoyed myself. But I get tired very quickly, and I know some of that will be down to I've played the game myriad times before, and it's never going to be able to hold the same, wow factor as the first time you play it. I get that, I understand it, but even so, it's just not as good as Odyssey. I feel like I'm being really, really harsh on Super Mario 64, but I feel this is the only way that I can really get it across. I am not saying Super Mario 64 is bad. I am saying it is a fantastic game, one of the best ever made, definitely top 100, but it hasn't aged brilliantly. It's aged pretty well, but it hasn't aged brilliantly. Super Mario Odyssey is so much more refined, so much further developed, there's so much more to do, the worlds are bigger, I think there are maybe even more worlds, but I feel like I've made a claim without doing the research. It's no good. You'd be mad to say that Super Mario 64 is objectively better than Super Mario Odyssey. I'm sorry, but, you're well entitled to say you prefer it, and that's one thing, but to say it's actively better is an entirely different thing. It's not an opinion. We're not on an opinion here. This is real life. I feel like I've been rattling on for half an hour about Super Mario 64. So, let's move on. Super Mario Sunshine. Is Odyssey better than Sunshine? Yeah, it is. I really like Sunshine. I really liked it at the time, more so than I do now. but it did get a lot of things wrong. It looked amazing, and I think the inclusion of Flood was a very bold and interesting move. It was trying to change up the formula and make you rethink how Mario works, but it totally made the platforming entirely different. But it didn't improve it. It made it very simple and easy to get around because you had a jetpack and you could just jump, and if you felt like you were going to fall, just use the jetpack. But it did introduce the idea of a new mechanic in the form of a companion, which we see in Super Mario Odyssey with Cappy. Actually, I've got a Cappy. With Cappy. Yes. But even then, that's a pretty loose thing. I mean, Cappy actively evolves the platforming and allows you to do more skillful things, and if anything, sort of tries to sort of make it harder by giving you this additional way to move around, but therefore also requiring it. Whilst Sunshine, you still required Flood, but it was very much, it was a safety net, whilst Cappy is more like it's more like an extra step in the platforming, whilst, you know, Sunshine was just, you know, holding your hand. That's a terrible analogy. I don't think I really need to hang around. I don't think anyone's going to argue that Super Mario Sunshine is better than Super Mario Odyssey, but we're going to do the main 3D games, so I felt like I had to throw it in. Right, I'm going to go completely mental. I'm going to go completely out of chronology, and I'm going to talk about Super Mario 3D World, because everyone's waiting for Galaxy. Super Mario 3D World was a very different 3D Mario game. It was much more linear. You had a start and a finish to a level, and, you know, it's good. I really, really like Super Mario 3D World. I think it's great. Is it better than Super Mario Odyssey, though? No. It's a good, fun game, and it's a great Mario game, but it's so different and it's so linear. It requires you to go from point A to point B, sometimes picking up Collective C. Collectible. That's that word. It had loads of content, it was really good fun, some of the level designs were fantastic, the post-game stuff was incredible, but it's still a very linear game. I think one of the factors that makes it feel less like a Mario game, for lack of a better term, is the fact that you're not just playing as Mario, and you know, that's fine. We've had that with Super Mario Bros. 2 and stuff like that, and I mean, Luigi is basically playing like Mario. But the fact that you've got Toad and you've got Peach and, spoiler alert, you've got Rosalina as well, makes it feel less like you're playing a Mario game and more like a game featuring Mario. You know, the more I think about it, the more I realize I don't think anyone would actually claim that Super Mario 3D World is the best 3D Mario game ever, so let's move on. Okay, this is going to be the tricky one. Super Mario Galaxy. Is Super Mario Odyssey better than Super Mario Galaxy? They are quite different, which is going to make this tough. Super Mario Odyssey is all about running around and collecting things. It's like Sunshine, it's like Super Mario 64, it's a sandbox kind of open world game where you run around and you've got to explore and discover, and then you find things, whilst Galaxy, it really isn't. You select a star, you land on a planet or a surface of some kind, and then it's up to you to perform platforming stuff to get to the end. It's kind of more like 3D World. But much like Super Mario 64, the whole sort of, you know, planet mechanics and the gravity play and stuff like that was for the time revolutionary, and I would still say it holds up superbly well. Super Mario Galaxy probably holds up better than any other Mario game. That might be partly because it's new-ish. Yes, you are still getting from point A to point B, and you are basically just traversing a land to get there, but it's split up in a way that makes it very fresh and original, and using these gravity mechanics is incredible fun, and it's just so well refined. You know what, I'm also going to include Super Mario Odyssey 2. Not Odyssey. I'm also going to include Super Mario Galaxy 2 because they are basically one and the same. One of them is just kind of like, well, it's just a direct sequel. They play exactly the same. Galaxy and Galaxy 2 do have one advantage over Super Mario Odyssey that is completely undeniable, and that's the fact that it is a far more structured game, and therefore the experience is, whilst more linear, more reliable. With open world games, and it's the same with any open world game pretty much, you have to make the experience yourself. You're given the tools to do it, but then everything you do is decided by you. You go in and you decide to get all the coins, or you decide to ignore the coins and just get the moons. You know, it's up to you, and how you play it can have an enormous impact on how you feel the game is good or not. Without wishing to go too off topic, I think one of the best examples of this in my memory is Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. No, I'm not going to say that it's a great Banjo-Kazooie game, because it's not a Banjo-Kazooie game. But that game is entirely decided on how you build your machines. And it is entirely up to you. And it is entirely up to you. The point I'm trying to make is that Super Mario Odyssey is great, but you are never going to have a reliable way to play the game. So if somebody doesn't quite get their head around it and doesn't quite understand, the game is too broad to be able to say, do this. This is how you do this. I know it does so in-game, and it does give you helpful pointers and waypoints, and you can turn on assist mode, but it's still not the same as starting a level in Super Mario Galaxy and getting to the end of it. It's never going to be that straightforward. It's always going to rely on the player to make decisions that result in the game being good or great or not good or great. But does this controlled and more sort of streamlined and well-designed environment make Super Mario Galaxy or Galaxy 2 better than Super Mario Odyssey? Oof. I'm gonna have to go with no. I do genuinely believe that Super Mario Odyssey is better than Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2. How much better is it? Well, seriously, we're talking microns of difference here, seriously. And I think it basically comes down to personal opinion. I know I've tried to be as objective as I possibly can throughout the video, but at the end of the day, games and reviews and talking about these things is always going to have some influence of subjectivity. If we could review games in a completely objective manner, there wouldn't need to be multiple review sites and things like Metacritic coming up with, overall scores and stuff like that, and people wouldn't have to look for others if there were multiple. People would just find one and they go, okay, yep, I'll read this review and that is going to be what the game is about. Of course it can't possibly be. It's all based on opinion. At the core, it can be objective, but it's always going to be outlined in subjectivity. It just has to be. And for me, I prefer non-linear experiences. I like to be able to take a game at my own pace and be able to just sort of, explore. I like to be able to be given the tools and to just play around and muck about and see what I can do with the game, rather than the game telling me to enjoy this. God, it's really hard to say that any game is better in my mind than Super Mario Galaxy, because although I have other games that I prefer, Super Mario Galaxy is one of the most refined and well-crafted games ever made, and you can put that on my tombstone. But somehow Odyssey manages to capture this sense of wonder, this sense of intrigue, this sense of exploration that you are actually discovering new worlds the Galaxy can't possibly do because it's too structured. I know Odyssey is basically an open experience, but there is still some structure in there. And I think the best example of that is New Donk City. There are streets and structure giving you a general sort of vague idea of the direction you're supposed to be going. But there's also all these nooks and crannies and little alleyways, and it's a really good algorithm. It's a really good analogy for the whole of Super Mario Odyssey. There are these paths that you have to take and that everyone will be taking, but if you just deviate a little bit, you can take a totally different route. You can go through these little alleyways. Maybe you can go over the path you're supposed to be. Maybe you can do this. Maybe you can do that. And yet you will still end up with the same results. So it's you plotting your own course to the end. I don't think Galaxy or Galaxy 2 can match that. Yes, there are some things where you can go off the beaten track and get more coins, or maybe there's a secret star or something, but it's nothing even close to Odyssey. Is it? I mean, come on, really, let's be honest. And Odyssey's just got more content as well. And I think Odyssey's movement system is better as well. It's very similar to Galaxy in the fact that when you throw Cappy, it's kind of like doing the spin in the air in Galaxy. But then you've got so many other things, and the acrobatics just make it an absolute joy, and it flows, and it's just, I could talk forever about Odyssey, I really could. So anyway, to come to a conclusion to the enormous ramble that is my life apparently, yes, I do believe that Super Mario Odyssey is, objectively and subjectively, in my opinion, the best Mario game ever. It beats all of them. It beats Galaxy. It beats Super Mario 64. It even beats Super Mario Sunshine. But what do you think? Do you think it's the best? Do you think that it's not? If you've got an argument to argue for one of the other games, please let me know what it is down there in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then why don't you capture that subscribe button like this? And be sure to check out NintendoLife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo-related content. Thank you again for watching. Bye-bye. Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and today I'm going to tell you why or why not. No, I've given it away already, haven't I?